The rumor started like a spark tossed into a dry forest, a sideline whisper that the King's coach took a jab at the Warriors, and in an instant the Bay felt that familiar surge of electricity that turns practice notes into playoff fuel. Maybe it was a smirk, maybe a line tucked inside coach speak, maybe a challenge wrapped in casual tone, but whatever it was spread through the fanbase like a wave rolling under the Golden Gate and set our pulse to a faster beat. Provocation can be theater, but around here theater becomes motivation, and you could almost hear the echo inside Chase Center as if the seats were already full and the lights already hot, daring our group to answer in the only language that matters. The rivalry with Sacramento has grown fangs and rhythm, a drumline of pride on both sides of the valley, and when their bench boss nudges our pride, he pokes at the very spine of a championship culture that never forgot how to sharpen its edge. We did not ask for bulletin board material, but we know exactly what to do with it, filing it into that quiet room in the mind where the great ones store every slight, every sideways glance, every little spark that can turn a game into a statement. You can picture the practice court humming, the ball skipping through hands, the screens snapping like trapdoors, the cuts carving lanes in the floor, as if the rumor itself wrote a new layer of focus into every rep and every breath. The King's coach can wave a hand and call it mind games, but the Warriors do not play mind games. They play basketball at a tempo that blurs photographs and a precision that turns half inches into open looks and open looks into roars from the rafters. This city knows how to carry a grudge with style, not with bitterness but with elegance, with the patience of a team that trusts its work and the fire of a crowd that remembers how joy can sound like thunder rolling in from the Bay. There is something delicious about an opponent believing they can jab without consequence, because that belief becomes a mirror that shows them exactly what they have provoked when the ball climbs the arc and the net sighs like wind through pine. Our identity was never about noise alone, it was about layers of trust, timing, spacing, balance, and the stubborn refusal to let a game be defined by anything other than execution, and that is why a taunt only adds seasoning to the meal we are already cooking. You can see the matchups forming in imagination, the switches like chess pieces sliding across a burning board, the paint crowded then cleared, the weak side emptied then attacked, as if the chalk on the board is a fuse leading to a glowing moment. In moments like this, the veterans become composers, writing tempo into the room, calming storms with a nod, raising tempo with a glance, reminding everyone that rings are not jewelry but muscle memory that never stops humming under the skin. Every rivalry shapes itself around symbols, and theirs is a beam that paints the night while ours is a lineage of movement that turns geometry into poetry, and you better believe that poetry can be as sharp as a sword when it needs to be. If there was a jab, we accept it as a gift, because a gift can be unwrapped in the fourth quarter when legs burn and lungs ask questions, and that is when the Warriors tend to answer with clarity that silences rooms. Fans in the Bay learned a long time ago that swagger without substance floats away like fog, while swagger built on habits becomes weather that dictates the day, and right now the forecast says resistance with a chance of fireworks. I imagine the locker room quiet and loud at the same time, quiet in voice, loud in conviction, with every player locking eyes not with an enemy but with a standard, because the standard is always the real rival in this house. The King's coach can talk about pace and physicality and the usual checklist, but words do not chase around corners the way our guards do, and words do not tag rollers or split traps or screen away to free a corner that feels like a lighthouse in a storm. What makes this rumor sing is not the insult but the invitation to remind the league that a dynasty is not a museum, it is a workshop, and the lights in that workshop are on from morning until the last pass finds the last shooter. I want their coach to keep talking, because every sentence curls into a strand of rope that our team can pull when the game tightens, and every strand becomes part of the tug that drags a tough night into the win column. There will be noise in Sacramento and noise in San Francisco and noise in every corner of the map, but when the ball goes up all that noise turns into data, and the Warriors are fluent in turning data into decisions that break hearts in slow motion. You can measure the effect of a provocation by the sharpness of the first defensive stand, by the way bodies move on a string, by the way five become a single entity, and that is a transformation this franchise treats like a sacred ritual. I think about the handoffs that look harmless until they bend the defense, the ghost screens that confuse, the sudden backcuts that feel like trapdoors opening beneath overzealous defenders, and I think about a coach across the way realizing the cost of a smirk. The truth is that confidence is currency and the Warriors know how to spend it, never in a rush, always with intent, always making the extra pass as if generosity itself were a weapon sharpened over 1,000 practices. Provocation thrives on attention, but our attention lives on detail, on feet angled just so, on hips turning at the right breath, on hands showing without reaching, on a box out that steals a possession and a possession that becomes the possession. The best answer to a jab is not a quote, it is a transition run with purpose, a rebound ripped with conviction, a rotation made before the pass leaves the fingertips, and a crowd rising as one because it already knows what the scoreboard will soon confirm. We carry memory like a drumbeat, not to cling to the past but to time the present, and when an opponent stirs the pot the Warriors stir the ball, and the ball decides who was speaking truth and who was selling theater. There is a patience to our fury that I love, a willingness to let a game stretch and breathe until the right moment arrives, and then a snap, a flurry, a sequence like a solo that starts quiet and ends with the building shaking at its bolts. If their coach wants to paint this as a new era, I welcome the art show, because nothing frames a masterpiece like an ambitious challenger, and nothing focuses a champion like a reminder that the crown must be defended on every possession. I see the coaches meeting in that polite pre-game moment where eyes smile and thoughts sharpen, and I see our bench settling into the calm that comes from trust, the kind of calm that makes timeouts feel like chess clocks ticking in our favor. You will hear about mismatches and mismanners and analytics until the hours grow long, but when the whistle blows the Warriors speak an older language, the language of cuts and screens and passes that turn space into a dance floor and defenders into furniture. Look, the Kings are bold and their coach is proud, and that is good for the game, but there is a difference between pride and poking the bear, and Bay Area Bears wake up hungry and organized and in love with the hunt. Our stars do not need a headline to find their edge, but a headline never hurts, and this one reads like a spark that found kindling in the quiet confidence of a locker room that knows exactly how to turn talk into tape. What I love most about this team is how joy survives contact, how they play with a grin even as they defend with a snarl, how they remind the league that art and grit were never enemies, they were always partners in a very loud duet. So let them chirp from the sideline, let them wag fingers and toss sly little challenges into microphones, because the Bay will answer with a chorus that starts with defense and ends with a scoreboard that tells the final story in bright letters. I picture the ball in flight, spinning like a coin deciding fate, and in that breath between release and swish every rumor feels small, every jab feels harmless, because the Warriors live in the space where preparation turns gravity into a gentle friend. We do not fear noise, we translate it, and once translated it becomes a simple command to execute, to trust, to move, to share, to finish, to huddle, to breathe, to repeat, until the other side runs out of ways to pretend the talk still matters. If their coach believes we are vulnerable, I hope he keeps believing, because belief without evidence is a door we will happily close, and behind that door is the same old storm dressed in new colors, the same old lesson taught again with style. The Bay has seen dynasties rise and challenges rage, has seen eras turn and heroes evolve, and through it all one truth keeps shining, that respect is earned in moments that follow provocation, not in the provocations themselves. Let the film room be our press conference, let the practice plan be our quote, let the first quarter be our rebuttal, and let the final buzzer be the line that ends the argument with the elegance of a pen placed gently on a finished page. Fans are ready, scarves and jerseys folded over chairs, voices warmed up, rituals rehearsed, afternoon schedules cleared, because rumor or not the feeling is real, the pulse is quick, and the city is ready to celebrate effort that looks like art. There is a miscalculation people make when they poke a champion, the miscalculation that talent alone replies, when in truth it is the habits that answer, and habits never get flustered or tired, they just keep showing up like the tide. The Kings coach can draw a bright line and dare us to cross it, but lines are for chalkboards and the Warriors prefer arcs, arcs that bend through air and find nets, arcs that bend in drives and find glass, arcs that bend in careers and find banners. When the game slows down, our reads speed up, and when the game speeds up, our spacing slows it just enough, and that paradox is the little engine that turns provocations into silences and silences into satisfied smiles on the walk back to the tunnel. We have learned not to answer every headline, but we still pin them to that invisible board in the mind, and we let them age like wine until the next meeting turns a sentence into a sequence and a sequence into a lesson written across 4 quarters. Sometimes I imagine the arena sound as a living thing, a creature that wakes when the Warriors share the ball, that roars when a defender takes a charge, that purrs when a pull-up falls, and that is the creature their coach just poked with a stick. This franchise treats adversity like a sculptor treats stone, seeing shapes waiting to be revealed, and a stray comment from a rival bench is just another chisel tap helping unveil the next version of something already beautiful and still becoming. There is so much craft in how this team competes, the footwork like calligraphy, the rotations like clockwork, the bursts like fireworks, and when craft meets purpose, even the most confident opponent starts to feel the floor tilt under their shoes. I want the Kings loud and ambitious, because that is when Warriors basketball becomes its most precise and daring, and I want their coach leaning forward as the runs start to crest, realizing that a spark can indeed start a fire in the wrong forest. Our bench is a laboratory and our stars are professors, and class is always in session, and when a rival questions the curriculum they usually end up enrolled in a course about humility taught by a net that refuses to stop whispering hello. A jab from another sideline does not make us angry, it makes us clear, clears the noise from practice, clears the doubt from young minds, clears the cobwebs from veteran legs, and clarity is the most dangerous weapon in professional sports. We will see the traps, blitzes, zones, and gambles that a confident opponent loves to throw, and we will see the counters, slips, flares, and dives that our group loves to run, and the outcome will be written in the footprints left all over the hardwood. What I hear when I hear that rumor is an alarm clock, not a siren, just a friendly chime reminding a sleeping giant that the morning is bright and the work is joyful and the game is waiting to be taken by the team that loves it more. This is a city that applauds audacity and demands grace, and that balance is the soul of Warriors basketball, the reason a little poke from up the road turns into a symphony of responses conducted by discipline and finished by flair. If their coach wants a storyline, he has one now, but storylines have plot twists, and our plot twist is usually a flurry of stops and a handful of makes that drain color from the other bench and paint the night blue and gold once more. Pressure is not a weight for this group, it is a wind, and they know how to lean into it, to let it fill the sails, to tack and pivot and cut across the waves, arriving at the same harbor where trophies once rested and may rest again. The rumor will fade when the lights come on, and that is fine, because its purpose is served. It woke up the tribe, it aligned the focus, it sprinkled a touch of spice on the old recipe, and nothing tastes better than a classic served hot. Their coach may wink at cameras and grin at questions, but our response will not be cute, it will be clinical, and clinical has a way of looking romantic when the ball is moving just right and the building is singing your name. There is a river that runs through every great team, a current of belief that carries you through rough minutes and loud arenas, and I can feel that current quicken with every retold rumor, tugging us toward a night that wants memory. We do not mistake taunts for truths, we treat them as seasoning, and too much seasoning can ruin a dish for the chef who poured it, while the Warriors keep cooking with the same calm heat that has turned many a challenge into another satisfied meal. Sometimes the loudest clapback is a defensive possession that ends in a sigh from the other bench, and sometimes it is a stretch of basketball so elegant that even rivals forget to boo, and either way I am fine with the answer we choose. I can hear the city hum with anticipation, the cafes filled with conversations that turn into predictions, the barbershops holding court over matchups, the trains carrying pockets of blue and gold toward a temple where faith meets proof. This is not about hate, it is about standard, and when a rival coach prods the standard he helps polish it, reminding the room that greatness is a habit and that habits are tightened not in speeches but in reps that feel almost holy. The Warriors will answer as they always do, with a joy that looks like defiance and a calm that looks like arrogance, and in that sweet spot between the two lies a kind of control that opponents confuse for luck until it happens again. Let the rumor run loops around social feeds and late-night segments, because tomorrow the ball will bounce, the lights will glare, the drums will pound, and a coach somewhere will realize that provocation is a currency that spends poorly here. We will take the floor with the same mantra that built this era: move the ball, move your body, trust the next man, defend without fouling, play through the noise, smile at the pressure, and let the work turn chatter into applause. If the Kings wanted a reaction, they will get one, not in a press scrum but in a back cut, not in a tweet but in a tag and a closeout, not in a headline but in a huddle where eyes meet and the plan becomes a promise kept. I do not need an apology from their coach, I want the rematch, I want the test, I want the chance to translate all this talk into a cascade of possessions that leave no doubt about the difference between a rumor and a reality. The dynasty label can feel heavy to outsiders, but to us it is simply the job title for a team that shows up, and nothing sharpens a team like a neighbor who talks brave and then has to live through the answers that bravery invited. The Kings are good, and that is why this is fun, and the Warriors are proud, and that is why this is dangerous, and when pride meets precision on our floor, the night tends to tilt in a very specific direction that you can see without reading a box score. So thank you to the sideline across the way for adding a sliver of spice to a rivalry that already cooks, because the bay was already ready, and now it is almost glowing, and the glow will follow the ball from hand to hand until it finds joy. When the final horn sounds, the rumor will feel small and the work will feel big, and that is how it should be, because the Warriors have always answered questions with plays and turned provocations into punctuation marks at the end of victorious nights. If there is one thing to learn from all of this, it is that the loudest message is sent by a team that stays itself, and nothing rattles a provocateur like an opponent who refuses to break rhythm and instead invites the world to dance to it. We will remember the smirk, we will remember the phrase, we will remember the vibe, and then we will remember the moment the crowd stood as one as the clock bled and the game tipped and the city roared the only verdict that matters. From the bay water to the top row, the feeling is the same, a steady drum of faith in a group that knows how to answer without waving its arms, because the answers here have always lived in the angles and the arcs and the art of a ball well shared. Maybe the rumor was exaggerated, maybe the comment was harmless, But if it gave this team even a breath of extra focus, then it served our purpose, and that purpose shines brightest when challenges arrive dressed as jokes. Let them provoke, let them pose, let them believe they can write our story with a sentence, and then watch as the Warriors pick up the pen and script another night of movement and memory that leaves the last word exactly where it belongs. The season is a long road, and this is just a bend, but it feels like one of those bends where the view opens up and the air gets crisp, and you are reminded why you love the journey and why you trust the driver holding the wheel. So here we are, a city leaning forward, a team sharpening its tools, a rival talking with brave teeth, and a rumor turning into focus, and in that alchemy I can already hear the music that means the Bay is about to sing. We do not fear the noise from up the road because we have our own symphony, and when that symphony hits its notes there is not a lot left to say, just a handshake, a scoreboard, and a memory tucked into the growing library of nights that felt inevitable. In the end, the Kings coach can call it strategy or personality or spice, and we will call it inspiration, because the Warriors are at their best when dared, and they have just been dared, and that simple fact is a beautiful problem for anyone wearing another color. Before we dive into the next update, help us keep the Warriors' spirit alive by subscribing to the channel and smashing that like button. Stay connected with all the latest Golden State Warriors news. Now, let's get into it.